Hello there, Seraph17 once again. This is my Evil Within Akumu difficulty, no upgrade, no keys, walkthrough. This is part 2 of chapter 11. That is a wasted bolt right there, one of 2 to come, because I could not figure out a way to do this, guys. I think this is probably the worst part of the game. I think it has absolutely no redeemable qualities unless you have the ammo to deal with it. And on this difficulty, it's very difficult to have the ammo to deal with it because of the gauntlet we've just been through. And on other difficulties, in this cabin we're in right now, you can pick up ammunition. If there was bullets here, pistol bullets, that kept populating, I would have no issue with this sequence. It would be interesting, it would be fun, it would be silly, and it would be fine. But as it stands, there are none of those things. And I sincerely hope there's a trick to this, because as it stands, it is literally clench your anus and hope for the best. So my strategy is as follows. The only people I shoot are the people who do Molotovs. There's a grenade to try and capitalise on the people on the balcony because they kept killing me. And this is me trying to hit somebody with a shotgun to destroy the Molotov, and it's kind of not really working. But we get rid of him anyway. That guy up there is going to hit you quite a lot. You might get hit randomly by an axe at this point. It's kind of disgusting, really. There's a flashbang, and if you shoot that barrel, it should kill both the people. There you go. And as long as no one on the left is alive, you should be good. But what was that, folks? A minute and a half of gameplay? It probably didn't look like too much, did it? Well, it's either going to be real quick for you, or you're going to be there for a very long time. I was there for about an hour and a half, and it must be said, I contemplated quitting the entire project, because you cannot control that sequence at all without ammunition, because hiding in that box just doesn't work. There's too many enemies, and they're on alternating heights so that they can hit you with the axes, and the arc of the axes is almost perfectly designed. Do not do this. You want to jump across to that because there is magnum ammo up there. And I missed it, and you can't get back up, so that is lamentable, but there's not anything I could do now, unfortunately. And I wanted to get the checkpoint so badly to get away from that horrendous section you just witnessed that I didn't really care. I can almost guarantee there will be 2 magnum rounds you get from that, and there is a map piece just there, but I'm not going to be telling you how to get those kind of things, because that's not really what I do. But that sequence is too quick for me to truly tell you what is bad, so my strategy was essentially stay in the top left, crouched, and then bob up and shoot the people who you think are going to hit you. Molotov guys hit you every single time. Gun guys hit you when you're trying to bomb up to get the Molotov guys. If you balance it correctly and you take out those guys on the left balcony who I threw the grenade at, then you should have a decent time getting through it. But it's completely out of your hands, and there's no skill involved whatsoever unless you have enough bullets to kill people, and I didn't. And I know it's my fault because of the restrictions that I've put on myself, and because of the way I'm playing. I haven't, been using the best strategies to save every piece of ammo I could be, but I still get the feeling like there should have been something just in case, and the game developers obviously agree with me, because on every other difficulty there was something just in case. But because this is Akumu, and this is the difficulty that's meant to be the fuck you difficulty, they've taken out something that can end a run. If you're there and you do not have a good amount of ammo, what the hell am I doing? I assume I'm leaning across to do something on my computer, and this is my analog straying. It does that quite a lot. At this moment in time, I'm still using my knackered pad. I am going to swap to my better pad, but that's only in the kitchen sequence in chapter 13, because that's another sequence just like that trolley area where I just don't think it has any redeemable features on this difficulty. Before this difficulty, it was kind of a stupid, trap, silly section. On this difficulty, with the one-hit kills, it just turns something that was novelty and stupid into a legitimately frustrating experience. And
Kidman?
If I could make one change to that entire room, it would be that those spike disc things don't keep spawning, but they do. And I would also change it so that there wasn't one that was sentient and came and found you. Because how is that a good idea? It's one of those really strange things. And this walkthrough is going to be telling you how to get through this game at its most brutal, effectively. And those brutal minutes are tough. And a lot of my sentiments I'm going to impart on you are going to be critical of those moments. But that does not mean that I don't like the game. It does not mean that this is not a good game. I just need you to appreciate that when you're being critical of something and you're telling people what can go wrong and the issues that are represented by certain facets of the design, it doesn't necessarily mean you're complaining, it doesn't necessarily mean it's negative in any way, it's merely an observation of systems that are at play while you are playing the game. And we have another one here. If you do not run and jump onto this van with full impetus, you will not make it, and for some reason the detection climbing onto the cars here, Sebastian will not climb on that van. It seems to be too tall or too bad detection-y, and you will be eaten by the creature that I looked up the name of and I've still forgot it because it's not a good name. It's like a stupid name like Styglo or something. But when that flashes, it means the gate's going to go up. You need to time it so that you get there as the gate stops, because if you don't, it's going to lock you out like it just did then. And of course, if we're too slow, we're going to be eaten by the giant fish monster. So, there is a body here directly behind me, I believe, that you can shoot. The strategy is, of course, when it starts raising the gate, shoot the body, jump under the doorway. I don't do that, I don't think. I seem to be just watching to see what this thing does, to see if there's any clear pattern. So the body should be just there. Do you see it to my left? So the next time it starts beeping, I hope I'm going to shoot it. I've tested with the assault rifle you get for beating New Game, and the sniper rifle and the rocket. I've tested the Magnum. You can't seem to kill these water creatures. Oh, I'm not even going to waste the bullet. That's okay. So once you get through here, if you continue past the fire escape up to the first floor on his left, one of those creatures is going to spawn in front of you, and he can instantly kill you if you're not careful. You'll also see a little vignette now of the character turning around sometimes, and the creature swimming into this section, which seems completely preposterous to me because there are two creatures already in this sequence. So it's one of those strange moments, but there are a few like that coming up. For some reason, Sebastian won't mantle over the balcony, even though he takes absolutely no fall damage. I should have shot that guy just then, but I didn't, because I just decided not to, apparently. So my strategy here is a little bit different to my normal strategy on other difficulties, because there's not as many bodies to use. You'll notice there are no bodies in front of me now to lure this creature away, so I'm going to use myself as bait on this car. I picked up the bottle because I was hoping it would follow the distraction, but it doesn't seem to follow the distraction at all. It follows me as a distraction, and whenever you see me falling off the cars into the water, know that that's not my actions, it's my controller. And the amount of times I've nearly been eaten because I've been dropping off sections, you can imagine the nightmare that is a dodgy dead zone on an analog stick. But once again, nothing to do with the game, everything to do with my equipment, and hopefully I'm not coming off as a bad craftsman, because it's something I can't avoid at the moment unless I use a new one, and I don't use my new pad often because I like how new it is. You know, I'm kind of like a scorned lover. I just take my beatings. But here he comes. You'll notice it's not doing the cinematic angle, and Sebastian will not get on the car, so this was a hairy moment, but see how close he is? Now we're going to go. We're going to go either directly forward onto the car, or to the left and onto the other car. I am going to go directly forward. So, he's very close at this point, so you want to get on real quick. As I've mentioned, visual representations don't really work against these creatures because they can kind of just kill you for no real reason. You need to shoot the guy who is across from me on the car. If you don't, he's going to shoot the wooden platforms. I'm having trouble here with the analog as well, so you'll notice I'm holding my gun instead of walking. That's so I don't fall off, because I want to pick the bottle up. This is me testing to see whether or not he follows the bottle. I don't think it really does much, but it might, and you'll notice there was some splashing just then. That's the guy I should have shot, because if you don't, he will shoot those wooden pallets. And that makes it a little bit more of a daring dash for the exit. If you kill him earlier, and it usually only takes one bullet because he falls into the water and the creatures get him, you can jump from this car onto the pallet and then jump again, so that you're spending the least amount of time possible in the water and at risk. But I can happily confirm, as you'll witness here, you don't have to do that, and this is the awesome shooting that this game has, which I'm going to talk about. So, in a survival horror game that has sway on weapons, do you really think it's a good idea to make it so that the weapon will fire randomly outside of the reticle that you're aiming in? I don't think that's very fair, and I think it's something that shouldn't exist in these games. And this is why. it already has the sway to balance out its effectiveness, and because ammo conservation is such a conscious thing in this type of game, wasting ammo is the worst thing you can do. So when the game intentionally makes you waste ammo because of a random variable you have no control over, that to me then stems into a region which I would call poor design choice. And I'm not going to say it's an Evil Within problem, because it's something that existed in Resident Evil 4 as well, but it was less noticeable in that game for some reason, and I find myself being incredibly critical towards this game in contrast to Resident Evil 4, when, in fairness to both games, there were a lot of things in RE4 that trip it up as well. It's just, this game seems to have more of them, and they happen more frequently, so it's easy to look at, you know, this previous gem as this penultimate barometer of quality, when how many times have we gone to kick a stunned zombie and the prompt has vanished and we've been grabbed? It's happened a lot to everybody who played the game, so I'm misremembering my experiences with it because of how fresh this difficulty is in my head, but I appreciate that, and I'm trying my best not to get too caught up in it, but this is really hard right now. I don't have any ammo, and there's a lot of zombies in here, so the best way to do this is get them all bottled in like that and burn them. On my first attempt, I think I burned every single zombie in this room with one match. It worked beautiful, and then I stood in a bear trap, which, it doesn't get much worse than that, it truly doesn't, and it's so annoying because because there's no bears anywhere in this world. Yet there's these people who have this prejudice against these imaginary bears. And it's amazing. But the bear trap is if you mantle over this side here. Do you see that little window? It's on the other side of that. And there's one there as well. You know, they're everywhere. And I do like them because I'm a fan of bear traps. There's something appropriately barbaric about them that fits this game very well, and all of the horror grisly films that they tend to take part in. But once you've killed all the zombies in this room, Kidman is going to do, you know, what Kidman does, which is try her best to get away from Tom Cruise with the children. And this door behind me is going to open up, and it's going to spawn 3 standard enemies, but the camera is out of your control, and the game is going to move you. And sometimes Kidman will blow the head off of one of the zombies. Sometimes she'll blow the head off of more than one, but it's entirely out of your control because it's this whole, come over here, Sebastian. Oh, I must run over here. And then she shoots and his head goes, and then there's 2 dudes and she shoots them as well. And you see how good she is? She just killed 2 of them. That's pretty impressive. I'm really looking forward to playing as her in the DLCs because I'm curious as to just how fast she runs in those heals, and also, what the hell is she doing when she's not in the machine? And she pretty much knows more than anybody, but she doesn't tell us. And I don't know if it's because, you know, Inception logic of if you know you're in a dream, your dream will go hostile against you, or what, but she knows what's happening. She knows exactly what's happening, and yet she doesn't indulge any of us. She doesn't help us to help her. You know, instead, she looks at us all as a possible enemy because Rubik can hold sway over us because we're plugged into the machine. But at the same time, isn't she plugged into the machine? So isn't she just as vulnerable as we are to his influence? You know, there's a lot of things I don't understand about this narrative, and I'm hoping in the DLCs it's going to explain a lot of it. There's a guy around there who has a gun. I'm going to flashbang him, and I'm going to put a knife in his jaw. So you pretty much know what's coming. But the third piece of DLC, you get to play as the Keeper. You get to play as Boxman himself. And that could be really good. Like, really, really fun. And I have no idea if it's going to be puzzle levels, where you have to get so many heads to proceed, and, you know, they're fleeing from you, so you have to do, like, set traps for them or something. Or maybe they'll just be normal humans who have guns, who are trying to defend themselves, kind of a, you know, a Left 4 Dead situation where you're a special and you're trying to kill them. I just think how good that would be as a multiplayer idea. Everybody is running around an area picking up, you know, scarce munitions to load what little weapons they have, and there's a time limit of, I don't know, 60 seconds, and then you start spawning in like the Boxmen do, and you have to hunt them down, and they have to work as a team setting traps and stopping you as a Boxman. Is that not one of the most awesome multiplayer ideas this game could have done? that could be so cool. And maybe that's what's coming, I don't know. Like, that could be really fun. And I didn't have a YouTube channel when Left 4 Dead was all the rage, but I adored that game. I had so much fun with my friends playing it, and just playing the computer on that game was fun, but playing against other humans was really good as well, because it wasn't that competitive, every man for themselves kind of bullshit of everyone's trying to do super well and everyone's getting really mad and frustrated because they're not doing as well as they want. Left 4 Dead just brought that community feeling together of everyone working as a team. You know, every single time you did something cool, it felt like a victory, and when you died, it didn't matter because you came back in quite quickly and your friends were already planning, you know, nefarious deeds to stop the humans from getting to the safe rooms, and those were fun games, and they really make me look forward to Evolve, because it's taking that formula to the next logical step. But we're coming up here on the middle portion of this sequence. The only thing really left to do is the mannequin room and some looting. So this is another moment where the game, because of the difficulty, takes a crazy turn into planet bullshit, and it's one of the weird parts about the Evil Within. It has these spawns, and sometimes they happen, sometimes they don't. Somebody mentioned on my Chapter 9 videos earlier, I think his name is Killjoy, he said that when Ruvik turns up on Chapter 9, he alters the spawns, and the guy is completely correct. There is something that he does on that level that the spawns just go weird, and because I'd only played the game twice at that point, I didn't really understand how it worked, and I've played the game now. How many times have I beat this now? I think I've beat this game about 6 times now. I'm quite deep. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It just doesn't get boring. I really, really do like it. And I need 2 keys, and I've done everything, which is annoying as hell because I can't find them. And I don't know if there's keys on Chapter 12 or Chapter 15 because all the guides online just don't seem to know. And I've used a key guide to get all the other keys, and I'm missing 2. So either the guides are wrong or I've made a mistake somehow. But I still don't understand how the spawns work on Chapter 9 or how Ruvik works, and I'm hoping the PC players are going to find out some of the metadata that's happening beneath the surface and, you know, tell us what's happening. But to bring this tangent back to what I'm mentioning, the mannequin room is an interesting room. You do a puzzle that involves dodging those spiky skateboards, which never should have existed in the first place because they're stupid, and they exist to cock-block the player. And the worst part about them is the illusion of randomness that they portray. They're not random at all. These motherfuckers are omniscient. They find you, they aim for you, they somehow manage to perfectly bounce like the worms through grenades on those amazing strategy games. They find you. So this first room here, I just run for it. Sometimes I get hit and I die, sometimes I don't. As soon as you get to the ladder, you're fine. The second room is very dangerous. On this difficulty, the enemies in here who look kind of like Corey Taylor in his old Slipknot mask. They've got that crazy white, like, face mask on, Michael Myers-esque, and you can kind of see their ears a little bit. It reminds me a lot of that mask. But there's 2 guys in here, and they have a set pattern. For some reason, every single time, this dude runs all the way over here, and then he stops, and then he resets, and then he starts his pattern. So I found this path, which enables me to stab them both in the back of the head without much issues. Or without many issues. Probably a better way to say it. But there goes the first guy. I can then go to the left now and stab the second guy. So the smoke in this is explosive, so if you shoot, the game ends. If these 2 enemies here see you, it goes to a canned animation of them lighting dynamite and the game ends. So it's best to either ignore them or kill them. If you turn the gas off, when you start turning it, all those haunted behind me, behind the fence, are magically going to understand the complexity of modern technology, and they're going to open the fence, and then they attack you, and it gets a little hairy then. In here, on other difficulties, there are 2 haunteds eating, but on this difficulty there are none. And then this is where the random spawn happens. Sometimes there's going to be 4 guys with sickles on the other side of this door, other times there's going to be none. I do not know why, or what triggers them to be there, how it works, what it is. What I do know is if you try and run away after you press this, they will chase you down. So I use a stun bolt to get around them. Sorry, it's not 4, it's 3. And then I carry on. Those enemies are so fast, they attack insanely quickly. Like, they can hit you if you stand at that door almost the second the door opens. I wish I was kidding at just how bad it is. And it appears I've made a mistake here, guys. I might have mentioned that Chapter 11 was 3 parts, and that is not true, because we're moving on right now towards Chapter 12, which is one of the shortest chapters in the game. However, it has some pretty difficult checkpoints, but do not fret, it's nowhere near as difficult as what we've just done in this chapter, it's nowhere near as difficult as Chapter 10, and it is not 1/10 of the assholiness of Chapter 6, which is easily the most challenging thing we've done so far. And a lot of people are asking me just how tough this game is. The game is very tough, guys, but it's tough in its own way. You know, if you're expecting it to be like your first playthrough of Master Ninja on Ninja Gaiden 2, you're not going to get that experience unless you get incredibly unfortunate. You know, it's really hard for what it is, but in the grand scheme of difficulty, you've probably played tougher games. And that's the best way to quantify it. It is a game that if you get stuck somewhere, or if you have a tough time on a section, you could be there for 2 hours, you could be there for 10 hours, you could be there for 10 minutes. A lot of the difficulty comes from variables that are difficult to control. In most sections where you were in full control, you can understand and predict the spawns, you can understand and predict enemy movements. You're probably not going to struggle too much once you understand the pattern, once you have the path, once you've got the precise movements of the dance. But getting those movements, now that's the challenge, and that's the fun part. It's learning those strategies that you're watching me utilise, and sometimes they come really quick, sometimes they don't, you know. It just is what it is. It's the nature of the beast. And Chapter 12 was pretty quick as far as chapters go. Chapter 13 was a little bit longer because of the kitchen. The kitchen is just, I'm going to roll a dice, and whatever happens, happens. And I really disagree with it. Not quite as much as I disagree with this room. Because for some reason, on this difficulty, there is literally nothing of redeemable value in this room except for some matches and a bunch of lockers to hide in. Who the hell are we going to hide from? Old age? Like, there's nothing here. There are no enemies now. We could stand here for the rest of eternity, and the only thing that would die would be society while the game was still running. Like, there's no enemies. It's really strange. And I think perhaps there might be stuff if you break the mannequins, because at this point I didn't realise you could break mannequins. Turns out there's a lot of things on this game you can break that I didn't realise you could. And another really obvious one, which I just never tried, because games nowadays just don't have that kind of measure of detail. You can touch the vending machines and they give you upgrade components. And I just never did it. I was almost ashamed at myself for not doing it when I found out you could. Madness. But this is the end of Chapter 11. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you had an easier time than I did with it, because I had quite a tough time. But, you know, luck and bullshit, what can you do?